Now, game week 35 is clearly going to be a popular time for FPL managers to use their wildcards. And if you're one of those managers, I've got not one, not two, but 3 drafts to talk you through. All right then, so for the first draft, I've got goalkeepers and defenders first. Petrovic and Gusto, little Chelsea double up in defence. You can see there, if you don't fancy Petrovic, I'd recommend just staying to the end of the video because I've got a couple more drafts that have potentially a decent backup goalkeeper if you don't fancy him. But for me, the guy's got 2 double game weeks coming up in the next 3 weeks and don't necessarily think they'll keep that many clean sheets. But for me, the best goalkeepers in FPL are ones that get a good amount of saves. And I think Petrovic has been ticking that box recently. And when you think, over the next 3 weeks, he's got, 5 fixtures? There could be saves bonus in all of them, which I think means some pretty good points. Now, I've built this team with a 100 million squad value. So I've gone for Ortega as the backup keeper. Yes, I know he's not playing anymore, but he's the cheapest goalkeeper in the game right now. And you really need to pick him to afford this team. But I mean, I'd imagine most people watching this have above 100 million squad value. So you might be able to already afford a better goalkeeper to go on your bench than Ortega. But yeah, for the purposes of this video, I thought it'd be good to go with a 100 million value. Gusto, Porro and Burn in defence. I think Gusto and Porro kind of got to go for those two with a double game week in 35 and 37. Again, I'm not really expecting many clean sheets from Chelsea and Tottenham. I think that's a fair comment to say. But I do expect both these guys to do well from an attacking perspective. Obviously, they're both flagged at the moment, right? So I'm fully aware of that. I think Gusto will be back for 35. Porro, a little bit more unsure about him. I'd suggest you could probably go for someone like Romero or Van de Ven. Romero actually carrying quite a bit of goal threat this season. And to be honest, if you downgraded Porro to Romero, you'd probably be able to upgrade Ortega as well if you didn't particularly fancy Petrovic. And then we've got Gabriel and Richards on the bench as well. So if you don't fancy, starting Gusto or Porro in game week 36, Gabriel's got Bournemouth and Richards, he's got Man United, potentially tough fixture. But for me, in game week 36, you could probably rotate Gabriel and Porro with each other. Porro playing Liverpool. You'd expect Tottenham to concede to Liverpool, but Gabriel could well keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth. And then you're starting Gusto, who's got West Ham, and Dan Burn, who I haven't even spoken about yet, who's got Burnley. Now, Dan Burn, I think he's decent. I don't think the Newcastle defence is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, they're conceding goals. However, Sheffield United, Burnley, and a double game week, I think that's a good set of fixtures. And yes, like I said, I don't think they're performing that well defensively, but looking at the fixtures they've got, I think he's worth going for. And 4.5 million makes him the cheapest Newcastle defender, I'd say. You could guarantee to play all of those games. Starting at centre-back at the moment, obviously in place of all the injured defenders that Newcastle have. Carries a little bit of goal threat, I'd say, from set pieces as well, with his, he's 6'6", 6'7". So he's definitely a threat from set pieces. And yeah, that's the goalkeepers and defence. On to the midfield, and it's probably fairly predictable who I've gone for here. It's probably quite template. I'm on holiday at the moment. I haven't had a great deal of time to watch other FPL content, so be interesting to see how this lines up with other FPL content creators and what they've gone for. I think you just have to go for Cole Palmer, right? 2 double game weeks in the next 3 weeks. He was ill for game week 34's fixtures. However, I think he'll be back for 35, and I'd suggest if he is back, he's by far and away the best captain, right? Phil Foden, I've gone for him as well. I'll talk about some potential other players you could go for in place of him, and likewise Salah as well, I think is probably disposable from this team. I've gone for him just with the track record he's got. However, you could go different and not have Salah. Foden, I think he's really decent. Probably the best Man City midfielder you can pick in FPL right now. Nottingham Forest, Wolves, and a double game week. It's a great run. I think with them chasing the title, with obviously going neck and neck pretty much with Arsenal, I think he's going to play most games in the Premier League, particularly considering they're out of the Champions League, right? So I think Foden is a really nice option. Anthony Gordon, less good away from home than he is at St James's Park, but I think with Sheffield United, Burnley, and a double game week, you can't really look past him. I think he's fantastic. And when you look at all the other midfielders in the game, they're not necessarily, I'm thinking Liverpool midfielders mainly, they're not really performing that well at the moment. So I really like Gordon, who is consistently getting returns. Heung-min Son has fallen off a little bit, but there's no way you just have to pick Son, right, with 2 double game weeks in the next 3 weeks. Liverpool conceding a fair few goals as well, so even that fixture mixed in there for game week 36. forgetting my game weeks. Game week 36 against Liverpool. I think he could well score against Liverpool, right? The way Tottenham play on the counter-attack, you know, they're really strong on the counter. I think they'll give Liverpool some problems. And then I've gone for Mo Salah. You know, he is, in my opinion, the greatest FPL asset of all time. Is he in the greatest of form at the moment? Is Liverpool playing that well at the moment? No. But I just think with the track record you've got to expect some returns from him. So 5 in midfield, that's who I've gone for. Stick around though. If you don't like some of the players I've gone for, stick around because I've gone for some alternatives in the other 2 drafts. Up front, I've got Haaland and Isak. I think it makes sense to pick these 2. Obviously, Haaland is an injury doubt for Game Week 34. Well, not a doubt. He's been confirmed out by Pep Guardiola. I do have a feeling he'll be back for Game Week 35. And to be honest, with the strength of the bench that I've got here, I wouldn't be too concerned about picking him and then him not playing in 35 because you've got Muniz off the bench who, well, was I believe the March Premier League Player of the Month. Was in incredible form and you can't deny his ability to score goals, so he's a really nice option. If you have a bit more in the bank, Mateta's in really good form, so you could potentially go for him as well as like a 12th man to rotate in and out as you please. And likewise, Gabriel, I don't think he'll do too badly against Tottenham either, so there's plenty on the bench here if Haaland doesn't play in Game Week 35, so I wouldn't worry too much. And I think just with the upside that Haaland brings, kind of worth picking him. And then I've gone for Isak alongside him. Newcastle's probably best player this season. Seems to have found some fitness now. Doesn't appear to be getting injured as often as he has been in previous weeks. I really like him as an option. And again, the Newcastle fixtures are great, hence why I picked 3 of them. Sheffield United, Burnley, and then a double game week in Game Week 37. I mean, it's looking really good for him. One thing I would say, depending on when Callum Wilson is due back, I'm not quite sure when he is. Callum Wilson will take the penalties if the 2 players are on the pitch. So just one thing to bear in mind, he kind of loses a little bit when Wilson's playing because he doesn't take the penalties, but Isak's in great goal scoring form. I think you'd be hard pressed to go without him. All right then, so if there was anything you weren't quite happy with in the previous draft that I showed you, I think you could go for something like this. So getting rid of Mo Salah frees up a lot of cash, a guy that doesn't have a double game week coming up, Liverpool not playing particularly well, and he himself not playing particularly well. He's missing a lot of good chances in recent game weeks, right? So you could potentially go for James Maddison in his place. That's one suggestion I've got. With the money you save by dropping Salah to James Maddison, you could pick Raya in goal. Bench Raya for the times that Petrovic has got a double game week and then play him when he's got a good fixture. So basically a game week 35, 36 and 37 rotation between Raya and Petrovic, I think works really well. Petrovic with a double in 35, then you start Raya. When Petrovic's got West Ham in a single, Raya's got Bournemouth in a decent fixture as a single. I think they could keep a clean sheet in that one. And then you play Petrovic again in game week 37. Now, obviously you go for Vicario as well. I think you can afford to do that with this team. I personally just prefer Petrovic. I mean, there ain't much between Chelsea and Tottenham defensively, right? But I do think Chelsea probably just edge it with the style of football that they play. And then Maddison's the midfielder I've gone for in place of Salah. Just with the 2 double game weeks he's got, I don't think he's too bad. He is always integral to everything Tottenham do going forwards. They're just a little bit out of form at the moment. But I think all those fixtures, it looks attractive. One thing I would say though, and it's kind of fixed by the next draft I'll show you, James Maddison is quite injury prone. And I don't think he will start 5 games in the space of 3 game weeks. I think he'll probably have his minutes managed, or he might pick up an injury in that process, or the procedure of playing those games. That's just my view. So I probably wouldn't pick him myself and go for something like this. I think I would take the hit on missing a double in 35 with Bruno, because he's got Burnley, who is in really good form. Burnley, one of the worst teams in the league. I think they'll probably concede to Burnley, but going forwards, I think Fernandes has got a good chance of scoring against them. Then he's got Crystal Palace. Then he's got a double game week. And I think there's no doubt in my mind, as long as he doesn't pick up a serious injury, Bruno Fernandes is going to start all of those games and play 90 minutes. And I think minutes plus penalties, which Maddison doesn't have, even though he's only got the 4 fixtures over the next 3 compared to Maddison with 5, I think Bruno's probably the better option. All right, and that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for bearing with me while I've been away on holiday. This is only my 2nd video I've done this week. Bit lower than my usual standards of creating content, but I've been out and about in Egypt doing some tourism, so I've just not had time, I'm afraid, to make as many videos as I usually do. Hopefully you can appreciate that. I'll be back to normal next week. And hopefully you enjoyed the wildcard draft there, found it useful. Let me know in the comments what you think of those drafts. You know, if there's anything you changed about them, I'd be interested to know. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.